Mandan Park District Board meeting to order. Today is Monday, June 12th, 2023. We are at City Hall. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, other than we may move some things around. We had some technical difficulties from our pros consulting, but right now we'll keep them at item number 2. Public communication from visitors. If you would state your name and where you live, Jan, that'd be great.
President, Commissioners, Jan Fosh, and I live down on the south side of Mandan by the old football field and golf course. I'm just here for item number 5, which is with dealing with that sewer line in your park board building. I don't see it as a public meeting, so I just kind of wondering if when we get to that item, if come up with questions or comments, will I be allowed to speak?
I'd like to hear, obviously, your thoughts.
Okay, I just don't see it as public.
I know you've been talking with these guys quite a bit.
Cole and Dustin, yeah.
Yep. No, we'll welcome your input.
Okay,
Thanks, Jan.
thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anyone else at this time? It's the biggest crowd we've had in a while, so we'll give a. All right. Last time, anybody else like to speak? Okay, at this time, we'll close public communications. And moving on to our minutes, we need approval for our May 8th, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
I'll make the approval of the May 8th, 2023 regular minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Mutter.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Melhoff. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Moving on to item 1, request from Big Stick Cigars to consider revisions to our current tobacco policy for Park District facilities.
President Gomeshki and Commissioners, with us tonight from Big Stick Cigars is Josette Dupree. She sent a letter to the City of Mandan requesting to share her concerns there and asked Mr. Neubauer to forward on to me, which we did. We spoke last week sometime. I can't remember which we did. We spoke last week over the phone, and she just wants to present and see if there's some changes to our policy. I included the policy in your board packet. Obviously talks about our tobacco products to be used within 20 feet of all park districts, shelters, concessions, and basically buildings following century code. But the one I highlighted in yellow just talks about the sale and or distribution of tobacco products on park district property is strictly prohibited. So that's the policy that we have in place. That's been as you can see, approved on November 14th and last reviewed on December 13th of 22. So with that, I will introduce Ms. Dupree, and she can share her comments.
Good evening.
Good evening, President and Commissioners. I am Josette Dupree. I own Big Stick Cigars. I also own Dupree Firearms Training. It's been a long legislative session this year, but after 3 legislative sessions in North Dakota, we have the ability now to open up cigar lounges. And I am going to be presenting to the Mandan City Commission to ask their permission next month to allow that in downtown Mandan around my location. One of the big things that has been coming into my shop is I'm having a golf tournament at Prairie West. I'm having a golf tournament at Mandan Municipal. Please, we would like to have you at the celebration afterwards and away from the door for most of the tournament players are over 21 years old. And I said, unfortunately, I can't do that. There's a policy in place that does not allow me to do that. And I would like to ask the commission to please review that. It's a celebration afterwards. As you saw in my letter, I do not sell cigarettes or hookahs or CBD products. We are a true tobacconist shop. I am going in 2 weeks. I'm going to be at the Sanford Health Blue Line VIP golf tournament at Hawk Tree, and I'm really looking forward to that. They're very excited. They reached out to me about 6 months ago to do that. I'm also in the process of working on some golf tournaments for the Petroleum Council and other nonprofit groups at Heart River Golf Course in Dickinson. So I've been talking to some of these folks who are arranging these tournaments, and they say, okay, why not Mandan? And I said, well, I will ask our commissioners that as well. Why not Mandan? Just give us this opportunity to sell. My product is legal, just as legal as alcohol is, and we have far more issues with alcohol in our state, unfortunately, than we do with that cigar. I would just ask if you could review the policy and give us this opportunity to sell to our adult-aged, legally responsible citizens who enjoy these things after a tournament. if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer those for you.
Well, thank you for being here. How would have, if you've done this in the past, how does it work? Do you just set up a little table or something outside the pro shop and sell to people that are sitting out enjoying a beverage of their choice?
Well, typically it's for some type of event that is already going on. This is our first summer being involved in golf tournaments. Last year up in Minot, we were invited up to a wonderful outdoor, well, it's a brewery that has an outdoor venue behind their location. And it was after one of their sponsored events that they said, hey, Big Stick Cigars, would you come set up your table? Which we do. We have 2 large tables, and we beforehand send out a menu of what to expect. What items are we bringing? And it was such a great event. We sold everything that we took up there. And I brought plus. I thought, this is enough. We didn't bring enough. And actually, I'm going to be at that event again this Saturday evening. So yes, so we set up for, so actually for the Blue Line tournament that we're doing, they pre-bought. They already know 50 of the golfers are going to be enjoying cigars. So they pre-bought 2 sticks for all those golfers and then asked if I would bring extra things to sell. They also hired me to be there as part of the experience, the enjoyment. So I will be doing the cutting, the lighting for them, answering any questions that they might have, describing some of the featured cigars that we will have for that event.
Josette, do you just do the tournaments for the golf, like at Heart River and you brought up Hawk Tree? Is that all you're just doing, is just the tournament ones
Well, golf courses.
at the golf courses?
The more we keep getting out there, the more people are going, hey, that's a great idea. At the end of the cornhole tournament at Atypical, we should have them come to our event now. And it goes city to city. So, for example, here in the city of Mandan, up until last fall, I could not go to events off-site. And one of the big ones that I had wanted to be at was the Big Muddy Walleye Tournament down by the Broken Oar. So I went to the commission last fall and I asked them, could we have a municipal code that's similar to if a bar needed an off-site one-day $25 license to sell their product at a wedding within Mandan, why can't I have the same opportunity? At the time, we weren't smoking inside. It was just cigars. I follow the letter of the law. I have all of my licensing because I want to be legal. I don't want to lose my livelihood. And so that was some of the things that we were doing. And unfortunately, this year, when I went to the Big Muddy Walleye Tournament, it was beautiful all week. Saturday came, and it was cold, rainy, and windy, so we did set up inside. We did okay for cigar sales, but obviously, if we could have been outside on the deck, it would have been much better.
Thanks, Josette, for coming. So when we talk about Century Code, Cole, you mentioned Century Code. What is Century Code right now?
I don't remember the exact language, but I think we followed our policy to say 20 feet within all entrances of public buildings, and we have that sign at all of our facilities. And I don't think that's been an issue at the golf course, whether we allow tobacco sales or not. We do have members that come play golf at Prairie West, and they stay within a reasonable distance. If they don't, we try to address it. We have the same issue at Raging Rivers. We have a smoking area that they come and they sit outside towards the parking lot. So people are bringing it to our facilities, and I think that was a contentious point that we were trying to make, is we weren't trying to outlaw it. We're just trying to keep it away from shelters and picnics where we get the complaints, where the people who don't smoke in the public gathering areas, we're able to control that. So it was kind of a balance that we did. And then the other issue is all the youth that we have in our facilities. In the past, Brad Olson, our previous golf pro, he used to sell cigars. I don't know who he bought them through or who he had, but he had a little container, that humidifier, and that he sold them from, or humidor. He sold them. I don't know who he purchased them from. In our instances, we have an agreement with Brent Weber as our golf professional, who has a control of the pro shop. So if we were to allow tobacco sales, even if we allowed it, we're giving the control to Brent to determine if he wants to sell them in his clubhouse, because that's where our agreement reads.
If he sells them in the clubhouse, you're talking about setting up outside the clubhouse
Yes,
on
President.
Park District property.
And so
Correct.
After? Always
Typically,
after?
After most folks say they know the policy is they're not supposed to be smoking cigarettes or cigars out on the golf course. But the times that I've been out with my son, watching, I see a lot of folks smoking cigarettes out there.
They're allowed to.
They are?
Yeah,
Okay, I
it's just-
thought I read
it's-
the policy.
No,
and it
they're
said
allowed on the
no.
golf course, but 20 feet within the buildings of the public
Oh,
buildings are
okay.
not allowed.
Okay. So, but yes, the events would be outside, away, and if there's not, it just depends on what the venue looks like. And if the venue doesn't have a nice little area where we can be 20 feet away, I have my big blue event tent that I set up. Most of the time, folks at things like this purchase and take home. But if they do want to enjoy, they know the law in North Dakota to stay so many feet away. They don't go, hey, I have to go to the bathroom, and take their cigar with them into the facility inside to do that. They're very respectful. Cigar smokers, I truly believe, are a different animal, if you will, than cigarette smokers. This is something, it's a leisurely thing, enjoyable thing, part of that celebration.
Cole, I guess this is a question for you, is I know we do the Mandan Rodeo and we have beer sales out there, and we get a percentage of that. Is there talk about if somebody comes and does cigars at a golf tournament, is there a percentage or is there anything?
Yeah, that was my next question is I'm sure if you go and there's probably a 10% of gross sales or something typical that we see at a lot of concessionaires that we have. The way our agreement reads, though, is that goes to Brent. Brent has all abilities to sell at that pro shop. We have our lease agreement, what we consider our fee that we take our percentage back.
Yeah, we get a percentage of the beverage sales out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my question is if we allow somebody else to do it, do we want to do something like that also?
Commissioners, the tournaments that have been asking me, like, for example, one of the nonprofit groups for out at Heart River and Dickinson has asked, for us to be there, that we give something for their silent auction and a donation. So typically, if it is a nonprofit organization, I work with them to a little bit of, they're giving me some PR, and in turn, I want to help that organization as well too. So it's a nice little balance that way. This isn't something I can see going gangbusters big. It's just to have the opportunity to be part of the experience. I would
So-
like it to be gangbusters.
So, right now, Cole, I know at the golf course, matter of fact, last tournament I was at, there was alcohol sales and trying to make a comparison to what they do with alcohol out there, where Brent has to have a liquor license, he carries that insurance that goes with it. But there was also giveaway. There was a few tournaments that are giving away margarita holes. I think there was beer given away there. How does that work? And is that all Brent's decision, Brent Garrett's, or does that go through you? Who polices that?
I had to call because I wasn't aware what was going on Friday for the BSC tournament that they were giving away beer, but they had to, any beer that they give away or any alcoholic beverages has to be purchased through Brent, and then they can give them away.
Okay.
So they do purchase it. The margarita sheens and things of that, we've really had to crack down on that just because it seems to get a little more wild at times as the golf course, tournament takes on and goes a bit longer. He's limited to how many times they allowed out there because it seems like the same donor is trying to be out there for all the tournaments and promote their activities and give away margaritas. So he's limited that, but I would say yes, Garrett and Brent pretty much have the right to decide who's in and who's out just based on their application that they fill out for the tournaments. I did ask if they have anything in there formally written as far as in their agreement with the tournaments what they can and can't do. And he basically takes his case by case.
Okay. Obviously, Josette, you understand kind of our idea behind what we do at Mandan Parks and Rec, healthy lifestyle, things like that. But also, I think the golf course is it's the only place we sell beer. I think obviously cigars and golf have gone together for quite some time. I understand that. I don't know about changing a policy, but is there a way to if an event coordinator, such as the nonprofit or whoever is putting that together, that they could request, but they can also request a waiver of sorts to try? I guess I'm not opposed to trying this to see how it goes, but I think there's some hurdles there too that when we look at our pro shop, is there a way we can permit this without changing our policy?
Yeah, because the policy just states that or no sale of distribution of tobacco products on park property within strictly prohibited. So if we allow a vendor, is what I refer to it as, on the golf course through the tournament, then that discussion would have to be approved by the golf operations manager, would be Garrett. And they usually communicate with me if there's a sensitive issue like that that needs to be addressed. But I'm not against the tobacco. I get it. People are smoking already out there. They're having cigars. You see them on the golf course. You smell them. It's just a matter of, do we want to be able to sell them? And that's, I guess, is the question, where people can go to the store and bring them onto the course themselves.
Right.
And Commissioners, my understanding would be that even though this board oversees our public tax paid for golf courses, I still need to request and get my $25 license to sell off-site that day from my location.
Arlen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's really the board's decision whether they want to change that policy or decide on some procedure for variance of that policy, maybe on a limited basis for tournaments only of some sort. And again, that would go right back to Cole and I think the Park District's operations people, whether they want to go that route.
I'll be honest, I'd be the first person sitting next to the guy smoking the cigar because I love the smell but don't want to smoke
Or
it.
the lady?
Or the lady. Yep, could be a lady.
President Meshke, my only concern is, or a concern I have is our contract with Brent, and are we opening up to other, competition with our own pro shop? What's next after cigars would be my concern.
Commissioners, I'm thinking about Hawk Tree and Hart River. So Hawk Tree in North Bismarck, Hart River out in Dickinson. They also mentioned that the reason they wanted me to come in is because unfortunately the cigar product that is sold in these golf pro shops, it honestly is substandard. It's not a fan favorite. It's not well maintained. So that's why they're looking for that other venue or that other event group to come in and provide something that's, and I'm not taking away because daily you can get, if you want to get that from the golf pro shop, that's great. Of course, I'd rather they come to my shop beforehand, but we're adding to that experience. So
Do we sell any tobacco? We don't sell any tobacco in there at all. No. So it wouldn't be competing there, but you're saying for future requests to do, is it going to compete?
So the language that says in Brent's contract, it says the park district shall rent space to Prairie West Golf Course and the Mandan Municipal Golf Course to Brent Weber to allow Mr. Weber to operate a golf pro shop and the storage, repair, and maintenance and sale of golf equipment.
So it doesn't say anything about alcohol in there?
Yeah, as the concession ones later down, talks about the percentage of our rent that he receive for the percentage of sales for just alcohol, has nothing else in there. Because the food and all of that goes to Brent.
I get, my concern is really similar to Miles, but we do have other things that sell beer at, the rodeo's one, the racetrack's one. Are we going to allow permission to do it at the rodeo arena? Say the rodeo people come up to her and ask her for a booth, or the racetrack. I don't know if it's appropriate or not because it's Parks and Rec and we're all supposed to be living healthier. So that's my question is how far do we take this? And I'm kind of I'm tagging along with Miles a little bit on that. Thanks.
Commissioner Mueller, it wouldn't be in my best interest to be at the Mandan Rodeo, honestly, to sell, because why? Children are there. It is, and honestly, in my opinion, alcohol then shouldn't be there either. They both have health ramifications, and again, it goes back to we have more ramifications with that alcohol than we do with the cigar in North Dakota. But again, Mandan Rodeo, that would not be something, I just purely want to be at these golf tournaments where it is typically the adults 21 over at the end at that celebration.
I think President Meshke and Commissioners, I think just to, I guess, wrap up on my thought process would be is, I think what Attorney Ruff was saying, if we wanted to offer a variance, let's allow 2 events to see how it goes, and then if we have issues or it goes well, we can come back and advise it. But we're not going to sell the tobacco products. Meaning Brent or anybody with the Park District. We're going to allow them to be a vendor at a tournament that you would have to determine in the future.
Because that's a different license, correct? I mean, for you to sell tobacco products,
Correct.
that's a
Yep.
different.
We have people that come in our golf tournaments that are various car dealerships. We have other, there's all sorts of businesses that we really don't even know who the vendors are that are coming that the tournaments are going out and selling. So I see this as another vendor. It's just that typically you don't see them selling something.
Yeah.
So if we want to try it for 2, I'm fine with the variance to say we would allow 2 tournaments at the discretion of Ms. Dupree and Brent Weber to negotiate which ones those are, and then we can bring it back to the board for future.
And do we have anything to request a variance in our policy?
Do we have anything that says?
Do we have any forms or anything like
No.
that would, okay. So maybe just, I know you wrote a letter already for us to change our policy. I don't think we're at that point yet, but I like the trial basis idea, see how things go. And like you said, I don't think that every person that's running a tournament is going to want Big Stick cigars there.
Right.
So just to see, hopefully there's no kids in these tournaments. I don't think I think that's where the rodeo is a little bit different too, like you said. But there will be teenagers there.
Right.
There are teenagers that golf in these tournaments too, so.
And I can work with the groups coordinating with me I would prefer to say, when we are at this part of the celebration where if we have our Big Stick cigars tent set up or whatever the established area is, it's 21 and over. And it is, because you cannot buy the tobacco products. And most cigar people, that's our adult thing.
Yeah.
We don't want those kids around. I am actually planning a cigar fest behind the train depot on September 23rd. And the biggest question I get is, no kids, right? And I'm like, yes, no kids. And I keep hearing, finally, an adult event in Mandan.
President Meshke, I do have one more question. So you guys at your golf operation meeting talked to Garrett and Brent, and the recommendation was to let it, no motion or whatever, but if we do a waiver and allow 2, how are they going to feel about it? Do you have a sense of that, or?
Yeah,
what
so I
was the
talked to them this
concern?
morning, and so basically they don't want to see the policy changed. That was both from Brent and them, but they understand that it's more like a vendor and not selling it. I think that's the concern, is we don't want to sell tobacco products, meaning the Park District, so that's
Sure.
what we're
Yep.
keeping in place. But to allow it to be sold on park property is really the variance that we're allowing.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
as I put in my recommendation, I didn't recommend changing our policy. I meant keeping it the same, but I look at it as vendors coming on our golf course, and I'm willing to try it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work after 2, I would say we just say the 2 tournaments that you choose to work with Brent on, that whoever's putting it on, let us see how it goes and then follow up.
I would appreciate that.
I'll make the motion to have two variants for for cigars at the vendor thing at a golf tournament.
Motion by Commissioner Mutter,
Second.
second by Commissioner Scott. Further discussion?
I do have one more point. So, like out at soccer, there's a concessionaire through Mark Club or whatever, and so we had food trucks out there in the past, and there was a process and a fee to allow that. I think we should, put some more thought into the process before we just go and.
Yeah, we charge $100 for food truck, right, for a permit for the event. Yep.
So to me, it'd be similar to that. That's another vendor on our property instead of,
And I think, just to piggyback that, is that obviously if some sort of a form, some sort of a process to go through to even do these, this will tell us what we need to know ahead of time. And
Yes.
I do think that really it should be strictly golf right now and after the tournament. As far as coming out there daily basis, I don't think anybody feels that way here, but to see how things go.
Can we have a little bit of a feedback after the two events?
Hoping
Either
so, yeah.
Brent to come back and
Yeah.
Oh,
give us
I'd be happy to come back too and
yes,
let you know how
because-
things.
Well, we'll listen to you. We also want to listen to Brent and Garrett too and see how things go.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that. Okay, so we have a motion and second. Any further discussion?
Just to clarify, Commissioners, so it's to allow Big Sticks the opportunity to have two tournaments at their leisure. They determine which two. We want them, that wasn't part of the original motion, but are we wanting them to take a vendor form where it's a $100 fee? Which I think the $100 fee would just cover the two events. Is that what we're, because it wasn't in the
So-
original motion, so I just,
So let's vote on the original motion, and then if we want to do a fee for that, then we can have a separate motion, so.
As long as we're discussing, I'm okay with going the two and then
Not
cleaning up the process and having a fee later. I just think we need a little more structure to it and control, if you will.
so Commissioner Melhoff, I think if I understand correctly, at this time, you're not saying there needs to be a fee charged. We're just going to see how the two events go, and then moving forward, we can charge a vendor
That's fine with me.
fee. Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. All right, moving on to item 2. Are we good to go, as far as you know? Okay. Michael Svet from Pros Consulting, his presentation of final park operations maintenance study. Are you there, Michael?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. I am going to share my screen and we'll power through the presentation. As always, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, suggestions along the way, please do not hesitate to ask away. Also, just to save a little bit of bandwidth, I'm going to put my video off in the background while I make the presentation, just so that I don't cut off. All right, so it's loading up. All right. Everybody can see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so a lot of this is a review of the things that have been presented to you previously, but didn't want to skip over anything and just kind of power through. So I will not necessarily read everything, but really I think the key points here are just how we're going to prioritize your FTE needs after taking into consideration all the analysis. Strategic implementation, talk about maintenance standards, and then other recommendations that we have. So we talked last time about refining the system inventory, really diving into this and ensuring that the classification of your park system, your amenities, aligns with how you're managing and maintaining them in terms of task and frequency, or what we refer to as maintenance standards. So again, none of this has changed. Just a quick insight that, you know what, you have a pretty extensive system, and actually having been able to get out and see it following the day following my presentation to you all really was insightful and helpful to really understand what these numbers meant. As we said last time, we are not focused on golf as part of this. Your golf's operation is a best practice operation, well above and beyond so many agencies at a municipal level, and just need to keep on keeping on and keep those people employed, because you've got a great staff. In terms of parks and grounds facility maintenance, this is the focus of our efforts. And as we've said last time, a very, very extensive operation, from what you do with aquatics, what you do with your parks and grounds and trails, and what you do with your extensive and also very unique and specialized facilities. We're not talking about just 4 walls and a ceiling and some flooring. You went from basically the all seasons arena as a field house to a certain extent. Have 2 ice rinks. You have basically a high school synthetic football field outside, along with all the bells and whistles that come with that. And then, of course, you have that tennis center with the inflatable dome that has some really awesome technology on the top in terms of sensing weather and whether or not to inflate or whether or not to heat or whether or not to deflate, depending upon the weather. So really unique systems that you all have some really specialized equipment to deal with. So just to kind of summarize it all, parks maintenance, athletic field maintenance, facility systems maintenance. You just have custodial services, grounds maintenance, trails, and then, of course, managing operational contracts as well as third-party agreements. This is the focus of the, looking at staff. This is the park and facility maintenance operations as it stands today. And then we looked at your current FTEs, made some very, very small tweaks after putting all of the information together between how you're spending time to the standards that you have to the system that you have to maintain in the budget. That you're currently have about 14.8 FTEs in your current staff, and that includes full and part-time staff. When you add in third-party contractors, that number jumps up to 16.2. In terms of what you additionally need, we have tweaked this, and I think we started somewhere around 8. We're somewhere around 4.5 last time, and have tweaked it down even further based on the system you have to manage and maintain to about 4.1 FTEs total. Again, that's just looking at it through the lens of how you're allocating labor against the locations or specialized areas of work against the best practice FTE count. When we look at your total cost of ownership or the allocation of your parks dollars against your very specific locations, the analysis also in turn helped to pencil out and affirm that where we are with your labor hour allocation is where you're at with your budget allocation as well. Since, of course, 100% of your operating budget is not personnel. However, after doing this analysis and again taking into account what you do in terms of managing and maintaining and what you have to manage and maintain, we're at 4.1 FTEs needed. In terms of prioritization, so one of the things that I think really opened our eyes was, or at least opened my eyes, it's one thing to read about it, it's one thing to see pictures, it's one thing to look at data, but when you really see your facilities and you see the locations of these facilities and the uniqueness of the brick and mortar that you have, it really became incumbent upon us that we said, you know what, you really need somebody to just manage the facility maintenance side of the equation. It's one thing to have facilities used. It's another thing to have facilities cleaned. It's even a third thing to, clean flooring and paint walls. But when you start getting into chiller systems and inflation systems and even the things like batting cages and basketball hoop, the up and down associated, the ability to raise and lower those hoops, those systems, I know they sound simple, but when you start looking at them collectively, it is quite an extensive facility specialized systems that you have. So we really feel like you need to have that one very specific person, diving into this. This is not necessarily a new position, but it is, I'll talk about this in a second in terms of how to approach this. You also need to have the all seasons arena. You know that there's a switch over with regards to how the schools are going to approach this. So one FTE there, one FTE on your park side of the equation, and then really just a combination of additional staff. And we'll talk about the need for why these additional part-time staff are needed kind of going forward. But I think this really kind of gives you an indication that you need help managing and maintaining those facilities. The other thing I'll add regarding these facilities is, for the most part, they're relatively young facilities. And as they get older, just like people's homes, they need more attention. They need preventative maintenance to prevent costly repairs. So we're not only focused on that, but an additional person on the facility side, additional person on the park side, and then really some attention to detail with regards to custodial services and some other basic standards, both on the facilities and park sides. In terms of how to approach this, and I give Cole and staff a lot of credit, recognizing that, your budget isn't unlimited. And so really the approach is to have Dave's position, Dave actually take on the responsibility of maintaining the maintenance of recreation facilities, as well as the day-to-day oversight of the contract use and operational agreements. What this removes from Dave's responsibility is the programming that you all do. And just kind of jumping down to number 4, how does that happen? So the current marketing and foundation manager will retain the current responsibilities, but also assume the responsibilities for recreation programs directly administered by the district. So in essence, all of Dave's job gets he is no longer responsible for programs, but he will then assume the responsibility of the day-to-day maintenance of facilities. Dustin will in turn, really give him the ability to just focus on maintenance trails, ground open space. And there will also be 2 full-time maintenance staff that will be shared employees based on the season. And so, during the winter months, those employees move indoors, primarily likely to help with All Seasons Arena and the Starion Sports Complex, and the summer be available to pick up all the work that happens in your park system. And then there are no functional organizational changes made to the golf and accounting divisions. Other than, I think, in the accounting division, you're making a position whole that had been reduced to part-time because of COVID. So the proposed organizational chart, I know it's a little hard to read on this screen. I just kind of wanted to emphasize that parks are here, the facility maintenance is here, the shared employees between parks and facilities is here. Golf kind of remains the same. Kelly takes on the programming side of the equation, and then Terry continues to manage through the accounting and business side of the equation. What this organizational chart does not show is it does not show new positions that are yet to be added. It's just the kind of how all your current parts, I guess, are moved around. You'll end up with an additional All Seasons Arena employee reporting to Dave. You'll end up with an additional park employee reporting to Dustin at some point in the future, and then that full-time position for accounting. So when we talk about maintenance standards, we have completed with staff, kind of set up the groundwork and then went through it, a maintenance standard program for every park in your system, as well as some of the future parks coming online, such as the boat launch ramp area, and then anything else in the future. We've also created something for facilities as well, but that's going to need a little bit more work going forward. In essence, what we have done is started to identify kind of everything here. I guess it's in the olivey green or yellowish categories, is kind of where you're currently providing maintenance in terms of what level. So let me just explain very quickly. You end up with kind of an area, you end up with a task, and you end up with a frequency. These frequencies usually either fall into a level 1, a level 2, or a level 3. Level 1 means that you are performing each and every task at a really more frequent level. Level 2 means it's kind of somewhere in the middle, and level 3 means that you're not doing those as often as likely a developed system would need. But again, every park's a little bit different, and the maintenance standards are applicable not across the system whole, but really on a park by park basis. We've, however, tried to take a look at all of your current park maintenance standards and make some generalization or observations of not only what your current maintenance standard is, but what it should be. And so what you see here is kind of taking all of this general turf, arboriculture, trees, litter, playground. These are all of the different maintenance activities that your parks and grounds staff deals with. And again, this is just one page. Here's the second page. You can see that it's pretty extensive. It takes that lines of service, drills it down a little bit, but starts to give you an understanding that there's a lot that goes into managing a park system, recognizing that very few of your parks are alike. So the long story short is we've identified the maintenance activity, not each of the tasks and standards. That's provided as a standalone document. But we've kind of said, all right, well, pretty much for trees, you're at a level 3. We recommend that you get to a level 2. Irrigation, you're at a level 3. We recommend that you be at a level 2. Litter, outdoor ice rinks, park buildings, playgrounds, sport courts. These are everything that's in yellow is where we're kind of recommending that you increase your frequency around the tasks that you perform for any one of these activities. And that in turn is basically where we're looking to utilize an additional park maintenance employee. One thing I think is really important, a lot of these are really about managing an expectation, managing your assets. But the one thing that is very legally tied to is the amount and the level of maintenance that you perform on your playgrounds. There's a National Playground Safety Institute and standards associated with managing playgrounds. You want every playground in your system to meet those standards. You're currently, certainly striving to meet those standards, but you certainly could use a little bit of help. And I think in terms of highest priority is irrigation. This is the second, I would say, if you had to focus on any two things, it would be playgrounds and it would be irrigation. That you would want to increase your level of frequency tasks and increase your standards associated with it. And then, of course, facility maintenance standards. These are all very much applicable to every one of your facilities. What you want to do is start to establish this program. I think it's also important to recognize that it needs to be facility by facility, and you need to take into account all of the very specialized equipment as mentioned. So in addition to the basic stuff from custodial to floor lighting and so on and so forth, it's highly recommended that you end up with preventative maintenance service contracts for the following. And this is very basic, whether it's fire and life safety, elevators, security systems, but the uniqueness of your two facilities, the Ice of Starry and the Tennis Center, certainly you do not want to fall behind the 8 ball with regards to managing and preventive maintenance on those systems. So this is not anything that you should feel the need to take on staff-wise in terms of dealing with this stuff on an everyday basis. And partly is simply this. If you end up with a staff member that is solely charged with this, and they're the one individual on staff that has this skill set, and they choose to leave or they choose to retire, you're left with a big void. So really having specialized, third-party businesses manage these systems for you puts you in a situation of always having a go-to person or persons or a company and their skill set and knowledge at your disposal. 24/7, 365.
Michael, just real quick, Cole, Dustin, do we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
anybody that does this right now?
Yeah, we have
Of that list up there, do we have any service
Yes, we have
contracts?
third-party vendors, and pretty much everyone that designed or constructed our facilities, they are included. But the difficult part that we run into, that Dave's been working with the sports complex, is we've had an ammonia refrigeration business for since 2017 we opened, no longer offers that service. So it's the shortage of workers that's going on in the area. So he's worked on some people from outside the state who come up here and service other areas. So we're hoping that we can send potentially an individual to go get training on level 1 of ammonia so they can do the basic stuffs on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. But on the preventive stuff, we bring them out here, whether it's monthly or quarterly. But yes, we do that.
So we're
We have-
already doing a lot of that.
Yeah, we have plumbers, we have mechanical, we have electricians that are all being outsourced.
Okay.
Yep. And a lot of, and I, but a lot of that is factored into that FTE count that we took into consideration when we looked at your third-party contracting. And then this is maybe a little bit longer, view in terms of other recommendations. But one thing you don't have is you don't have a GIS or asset management based work order management system. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to document pretty much any maintenance that takes place on any asset in your system. It also starts to work hand in hand with your life cycle replacement program, which you guys do a great job of right now. But again, if you're going to go to that next level, this requires a certain amount of skill set, certain amount of expertise, certain amount of lead time to set it up. But having a GIS, asset-based work order management system is key. I'll give you one really quick example. We worked with the city of Bozeman, Montana. They currently use a product called CityWorks to manage pretty much all of the assets in their entire system, but very specifically parks and recreation. And the amount of detail and information that they can get out of that in terms of how well they're doing to manage to their standards, where they're short in managing to their standards, how the standards of work that they're performing is impacting life cycle is a complete different level of analytics than a lot of communities have or a lot of districts have. But again, if you wanted to get that, something that you could do. Cost of service analysis, if you wanted to get into a true detail, this would, I think, require a level of tracking over the next year, next 12 months of budget that really starts to take the work that we did as part of this maintenance study and put it to use on a month-to-month, quarter-to-quarter, season-to-season, year-to-year basis to really give you an understanding that, and I'm just going to scroll back here very quickly, that these numbers are truly accurate. I think what we've done here is we've done a really good job of trying to completely do a good job of allocating this based on kind of a percentage. But I think doing that cost of service work will give you an understanding of where you're short and where you need to tweak. Park systems, facilities, they age differently. There are some years in which you might spend more money and more time in one specific park than others. But again, just having that level of detail and that comfort of tracking your dollars and understanding where you're spending them and how you're spending them is also critically important. And then I know that you have volunteer programs, but there are definitely formalized volunteer programs that you can do. This is no different than Adopt a Road or something along those lines. But people do have formalized Adopt a Park, Adopt a Trail programs. You live in a great community that is obviously very invested in your park system. So, possibly doing some sort of volunteer program that would help to enhance maintenance efforts. In particular, these are small projects, litter pickup, whatever it might be, that in turn helps to just mean you're avoiding costs through the work that you would have to do as a staff. So again, these are just some other recommendations. But again, I think we're looking at really it's the 4.1 employees and this strategy. to accomplishing them. In particular, about how you're moving some things around to effectively and efficiently use your resources to check a few boxes is really critical. And again, it comes down to that 4.1 additional employees over the next basically next 2 to 3 fiscal years. And that's all I have. Any questions, concerns, comments, suggestions?
Anything for Michael?
I just have one, I know the service clubs are getting smaller and smaller, but are we working with any of the service clubs lately?
I guess the one I can that comes to mind is Boy Scouts is doing cleanup after rodeo events. Is the only one right now that we've been working with.
Thanks, Dustin.
Anything else from the board?
I think I already asked Cole this question, but are we putting any money in the foundation for parks and trails as a separate line, or are we going to just keep it under general?
So I think, if I understand correct, Commissioner Mutter, are we putting money in the foundation?
Well, anybody donating money towards just the parks and the trails, I guess.
Well, there have been some donations to the foundation that were undesignated, and we've kind of left that up to the foundation board to determine how we want to utilize those funds. So I think there was one from First National Bank and Trust that gave $10,000. We haven't designated any of that, so if the foundation board chooses to allocate any of those dollars towards something. Usually the fundraising we have going around right now has been pretty specific for like the rodeo, I think the tennis center, and then we had the RC track and the go-kart tracks. So there's been some donations coming in from them. But as far as like benches and trees are kind of our memorials, we've had those donations, but that's specifically for trails and parks. We have asked for that. But if it's undesignated like we have, like I said, we definitely could.
Thank you.
So, President Meshke, the only thing I want to add is thank Mike Svets for all of his time. I know it's been a lot of work with us since January. It's good information. As you know, I shot that email that kind of summarized the thoughts that we've been working through. We still have some details between Dave and Dustin.
You've kind of adopted a lot of what.
Yep, we're starting to
he's talking
implement it.
about, correct?
July 10th is when the changes are going to go into place so that staff understand what's taking place. But we still have a little bit of details that we have to work through as far as specific things that just pop up. And those little ones that pop up seem to always grow bigger than it needs to be. So we just got to get a clearly definition of roles and responsibilities because we do rely on park operations for a lot of the big stuff.
Sure. Yes, thank you, Michael, for everything. I think we always, like we said, we always knew we needed probably more people. We're budgeting for that. We'll get those in our budget within the next couple of years. So.
You're very welcome. You guys have an incredible system. You've got a great staff. It's just as I always say, there's nobody's immune to opportunities for improvement. I think that includes everybody. So I wish you guys the best. And as I love to say, the contract may end, the relationship does not. So extend this to Cole, the board, staff. Please feel free to call on us at any time. We certainly want to be there to help power through anything related to this study. Any additional work that might need to be done, we're here to do that for you. We just want you to be successful.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, folks. Take care.
Moving on to item number 3, consider for approval to apply for Park Systems Grant Program.
Commissioners, in order to apply for the grant, we have to have a motion from the board that we support the application. It's very similar to what we did last year with Raging Rivers exterior and interior improvements. They changed the name to the Park System Grant, but last year it was called the ARPA Grant. So these dollars are set aside from state parks for us to apply. There's $6 million for a population of 15,000 and greater, and that's where we would definitely apply for that category. The Mandan Baseball Club and the Park District have been talking about their light replacement. As we know, a switchgear went out this year on our lights. I don't know if either one of us know how old those poles are, probably our age or older. But the baseball club obviously is willing to match the 50%, so there would be no cost share from the park district specifically with our general fund dollars. We would be basically a pass-through. So we would be the lead in the project as the owner of the project, apply for the grant. If funded from the grant, we would use the dollars from the baseball club to pay for. So we're estimated right around 640,000. We may bump that up slightly for the grant once we know what the electrical and the transformer cost specifically will be. The grant applications are due, I think, by July 6th or 16th. I can't remember the date. And then there's a 2-week turnaround after that as far as being notified. So as you saw in the packet, the only concern that I have associated with it is in our region, sports courts and fields score the lowest out of the 3 primary needs, where in the past when we did Raging Rivers, swimming and water facility scores the highest. So we're competing with everybody across the state of 15,000 or greater. I did bring it up in our leadership meeting this morning about anything that's going to be in the 24 budget. Dustin had mentioned the surfacing of the universal playground. When we apply for multiple grants, we have to prioritize, and so then the point scale system impacts us. So we do have the universal playground resurfacing in the 24 budget, estimated about 200,000, which would be 100,000 grant, 100,000 park contribution in addition to that. So I'm not against applying for both grants. Obviously, the park one would score higher than the baseball one, but the baseball one's probably the greatest need that we have, because if we don't have any partnership with the baseball club, the park district would be 100% on the hook if
Yeah,
we weren't funded.
and we thank the baseball club for their continued
So
support.
I mean, 100,000 grant would be great, but a 300 and some thousand dollar
What,
grant would be
what
better.
happens if we don't get the grant? What have those talks been, or haven't they been?
We probably are going to have to build that into the renovations to the youth fields and try to do it all at once. And do they have enough appetite to take that whole debt on? We don't know.
Okay.
But we're hoping that the grant will be notified 2 weeks after July. I think it's July 16th is when it'll be notified.
Okay.
So we're looking for approval to apply for the replacement of the poles and light fixtures at Memorial Ballpark.
I would recommend approval to apply for the park system grant for Memorial Ballpark lighting and pole replacement project, with Mandan Baseball Club providing the local 50% match.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Scott,
Second.
second by Commissioner Melhoff. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. On to item number 4, consider for approval Ferris Field ball diamond bids. Dave?
Good evening, President Meske, Commissioners. We went to rebid for Ferris Field on May 25th. We opened bids. They came back very, very favorable this time. So before you, we just want to show you what the bids are and look for a motion on approving the bid Sand Creek for $39,854, electrical for $73,044. Alternate A backstops, $44,940, and alternate B fencing, $74,552, for a total of $590,591 for just the bids for the project. And then the added engineering fees is $43,200, which you guys approved at the last meeting. So I'd entertain a motion to approve those. Or any questions I could answer? Or Cole?
I don't have any, but I can't make a motion, so.
So then just to add, Commissioners, so if we approve the bid, that means we're committed to move forward with the project. And as you know, there's a shortfall of about 180,000 that we have made recommendations in the motion for the second motion. So please understand, if
So-
we're
so if
approving
we do
bids, we're
one,
approving the.
We got to do 2.
Yeah, I was just going to have Cole kind of talk about the motion number 2. But I can answer any questions on motion number 2. We're short 180,000 for what we have in the budget for to finish the project right now. So we would be taking 100,000 from the general fund and then 80,000 from the fencing for the baseball complex right now would be what we're looking for.
I got the craziest question of all, but do we have $180,000?
Yes, Commissioner Mutter, of the 280,000 was approved for the fencing, so we're just reallocating that 80. What we're really asking for is to reallocate the 80 from the 280 dedicated, and then take an additional $100,000 from the general fund. And I don't see these bids getting any better. I mean, Dave's done a good job getting them down. I can't remember where they came in the first time. It was over $1 million.
Right.
So by separating the project from the baseball club, we were able to save, $300,000-$400,000. We had the fencing contract, or excuse me, the $280,000 that we had dedicated for fencing specifically was for baseball to start with. We combined the project to hopefully be able to utilize those funds, but I don't see any other way if we don't reallocate those dollars along with $100,000 from the general fund to get this project in. As you know, back in 2017 is when we were supposed to kind of move forward with Ferris Field after the sports complex. That's where the 333 remaining, and then the dollars we've contributed towards it. So I think it's a great opportunity to get this thing rolling. As you know, it's only 2 fields, not 3 like we originally wanted because the costs have just increased, and hopefully the girls' fast pitch and other groups can work towards putting synthetic turf in the future.
The only thing that we don't have to accept is if you guys don't want to accept alternates, then we would just do the base and then hopefully get fencing in at a later date. We're just trying to get it in during the project, so. But we did have to go out and we had to expand the dates and things like that to get a local contractor to bid it. So like Cole said, this is the cheapest I think we're going to see. And if we don't do it now, I don't think we're going to get it in anytime soon.
So the 80,000, Cole, Dave, whichever wants to take it, 80,000 we're borrowing from over here to move over here, would be replaced in a future budget, or how would that work?
As of right now, it's not in the 24 budget that we're presenting. I think some of the improvements at the baseball club, switching diamonds 9 and 10 around and having to add a lot of the chain link in there is kind of what is impacting the cost of some of those projects to go up. If we were to keep the project, the layout of the designs today, probably would have some cost savings to us. Then the 80 would be. I'm sure the baseball club's not happy about losing 80,000 towards those fields. I just don't see any other way to get Ferris Field in. And so we've done a lot of improvements to Memorial Ballpark. And I think Ferris Field's been on our priority list over some of these youth field improvements. So I understand down the road,
Jan's here. Jan, yeah.
we need to get Ferris Field rolling.
You don't want to talk about this one, right? Okay.
And I'm sure there'll be future projects in with the baseball club that we'll have to contribute into.
Right. We have waited on this project for a long time, and obviously the costs have gone up, but we just, yep. And they're not going to get better, I don't think.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve the Ferris Field bids. Sand Creek, $398,054.81. Electrical, $73,044. Alternate A, backstops, $44,940. Alternate B, fencing, $74,552.19 for a total of $590,591.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Scott,
Second.
second by Commissioner Melhoff. Any further discussion? Commissioner Scott?
Aye.
Commissioner Mutter?
Aye.
Commissioner Melhoff?
Aye.
Yes from me as well. Motion carries.
Thank you.
So in order to take care of that 178,000 shortfall, they're requesting a budget amendment. And the 80,000, like Cole said, when we voted on the Starring Sports Complex, there was 333,000 set aside for Ferris Field. We ended up doing some other things with that. We took 333 out of our general fund, and earmarked it for there. So 80 of that was already for that. So the other 100,000. And to be honest with you, I'm glad we waited. Jan maybe isn't, but I'm glad we waited. I think we're getting a better product by waiting and making sure we're putting what needs to be there. So.
Well, I'll make a motion to recommend for approval amending the 2023 budget in the amount of $100,000 from the general fund for Ferris Field and redirecting 80,000 towards the Ferris Field from the capital improvement fund that was approved in the 23 budget for the fencing upgrades at the youth complex.
All right.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Melhoff, second by Commissioner Mutter. Any further discussion? Okay, Commissioner Mutter?
Aye.
Commissioner Melhoff?
Aye.
Commissioner Scott?
Aye.
Yes, from me as well. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 5, update on park operations, maintenance, building, and private sanitary sewer line.
President Meskey and Commissioners, we are in the process of the footings are getting poured. I haven't been down there this week, but they poured their second pour, which would be the furthest north end of the complex, or excuse me, the park maintenance building. But as you know, in all construction, there always seems to be a little bit of a surprises, and unfortunately, in this project, we discovered an underground, undesignated, unrecorded, undeeded sanitary sewer line that feeds 2 private properties, and they're with us here tonight, Mr. Foshin and Mr. Gardner. We did meet Commissioner Mutter, who has the portfolio, along with myself and Jan and John, to really just talk about the issues. And the issue, obviously, is it's about 6 feet away from the footing. It's a 4-inch sanitary sewer line. Nobody knows when it was installed. Nobody knows how it was installed. We have met with the city. You saw the email correspondence that I had Justin Process, city engineer, kind of type up and summarize his thoughts. And really what it comes down to is it's not in any right-of-way. It's not recorded. There's no permitting associated with it, so there's no governance from them. If I can pull up the map here, if I can get the... But I wanted to reflect here. Yep, so I can zoom in here a little bit. So this is the city GIS. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. This is the city GIS that really shows you where all of the sanitary.
Cole, can I interrupt you just for a second? This sewer line does not, this does not feed your toilets, this goes to where?
This building feeds the garage for Mr. Gardner, and for Mr. Foshin, I believe it's considered the bait shop building. Is that correct?
Okay.
So as you see,
I just want, while you go through this, I want the commissioners to make sure that we're clear on that.
try to zoom in a little bit better here. So as you can see, get my bearings straight here. There's Gardner's property. Here's the bait shop that we're referring to for Mr. Foshin, Gardner's building here. This is the current park operations building or cold storage building. The new building is going right here in this area. As you can see, the blue is the water line that is in the easement. And in the underground that is not an easement, you can see where there's a yellow, and your packet, there's a yellow line, but sort of diagonals through this property where we're currently building our park operations building. So as you can see in their GIS, it's not recorded there. You can see where the green that goes east-west is where the sanitary is, and that's where we're tying into our building. That's where, for whatever reason, was put in. We're thinking, and because it is PVC, it's got to be at least 30 years old. We did find some clay tile in the area too, along with a telephone line that wasn't recorded. Dustin had last fall, right? Last fall, the telephone line was hit. That contractor, that owner of that telephone line had to put it back into the easement and then redistribute it throughout the property. Same thing with the abandoned clay tile. Obviously, it was hit. We didn't need to fix it because it didn't service anybody. So really what it comes down here today is we have a sanitary sewer 4-inch that serves 2 private landowners. That's why they're here tonight, to kind of talk about their concerns. What we have before us is obviously the liability associated with the park operations building. If the sanitary line in the future, as we know, is going to have concrete around it, around the parking lot, you have a brand new $3.1 million building with footings. We don't know what the future is going to hold. Is that pipe going to break ever in the future? If it does, it serves 2 private people. Are they going to pay for the repairs to any settling of a building, to our concrete, whatever it may be? What we're recommending tonight is that either it be relocated to the easement that is currently there, that runs north-south as I'm showing on the map. That is currently an easement. We would provide a wider easement if needed, so that no charge to the private landowners, and that we would record the deed and get it recorded accordingly. Obviously, the concern that they're going to probably share tonight is obviously the cost. We've gotten ranges on the low end, $10,000, but if there's no cleanouts, which Roto-Rooter and the city has confirmed that there needs to be cleanouts every 100 feet, there is no currently cleanouts on this 4-inch sanitary line. That's where it's at today. So there's additional costs, assuming with that. I did not get a number with that, but we're looking in that 10,000 range to all the way up to 20, I'm assuming, on the high end. I did want to clarify with the city, it's a 4-inch today. They stated that most buildings have an 8-inch. They're not requiring that to be an 8-inch. they're saying they can still stay with that 4-inch to serve in the 2. So before you, I guess, is discussions. I've met with Attorney Ruff. We've talked on the phone a couple times about our options. We want to be good neighbors, but at the same time, we want to protect our investment in our building. And so if there's solutions that maybe Mr. Gardner or Mr. Fosh you want to bring up here tonight, I guess I will stand and give them the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
All right, who wants to go first?
I guess, President, Commissioners, yeah, it's been there for as far as records I can find or whatnot, haven't had a whole lot of time to do a bunch of research, but it was probably built in the 70s or put in the 70s. Like you said, nobody knows how or whoever got the permission to do it. But I believe that property was Morton County's before you guys bought it or took over it. And maybe they dealt with whoever was in Mr. Gartner's building. I don't know if it was Pokerback or who it was back in the early 70s. Maybe they gave him a handshake and said, go ahead and do it. Apparently the city has no record of it, which they should have at least known it was there, and you guys should have known, because they hit it when they did their stormwater drain, that went through on the north side of that road. I've talked to some of your
Who
employees.
repaired that
Koffler, I think, did that.
at the cost of?
I don't know who. I don't know who.
You guys didn't?
No, I didn't pay no cost.
Okay.
They hit it and they didn't know it was there.
Okay.
I knew it was there. I had Roto-Rooter come down and scope it out of the bait shop building, probably 2 years ago. I let some employees know about it because I was concerned, because you guys have been working on this building for, I think Cole indicated, like 3 years already. So I asked about where it was going, and to me it was going farther to the east. I wasn't going to have to worry about that sewer line, but here we are. We got an issue. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't see no cost to me at all. It should be, if you guys are afraid, it's not a water line, so there's no pressure in it. Something happens in the future and that line breaks, I don't see where it's going to cause any damage to your footings. It's just going to back up, and end up in Mr. Gardner's shop again. So, at that time, there might be some other solutions, or just cap it off at that time. It's, I don't see where, you guys want to keep your building moving forward.
Right. Yep.
It's $10,000, maybe $12,000, that's a drop in the bucket to you guys. And you are dealing with Bauer Excavating already. They could come in and move that sewer line if that's something that you desire, But I don't know. If you have any questions, I can answer or try to answer them,
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Foshing?
Mr. Foshing, so your line for your home, sewer line, goes out in the street in front of your homes?
No, it's not tied with it. If you
Not
look
tied
at
to
this
this at all.
map that he's got up here, the sewer line is in the middle of the road right to the west of my house, and it's the one that runs through the center of Ferris Field, then over
Yeah.
to the lift station.
So you probably tie into that manhole on
Yep.
the west.
I tie into that manhole. And so does Mr. Emo, my other house tenant there, he ties into that manhole. The bait shop comes out to the east and goes north.
So that's that other building near the bait shop.
Well, the
That
bait
you just
shop is the
mentioned.
one that I'm concerned about.
And the bait shop's the one right by the road there
Yep.
where we vacated part of that road to.
That road was part of vacated.
So the building closer to the Hart River there, that goes,
The one to the west and
To the
south of the
west.
bait shop. Yeah, that's a house, and that's tied into that manhole,
okay.
But how it ever got there without doing a bunch of research, I know Cole said that there's no easement or anything on the abstract. I assume that's what you went through, but that doesn't mean a variance wasn't granted, by the city. Maybe it was granted by Morton County without going back and spending days doing research. I don't know how that sewer line got put in. I can't believe they put it in without somebody knowing about it, And then, like I said, I was thinking that your building was going to be farther to the east, and then I think it was Cole that mentioned that Bauer over excavated. he dug out more than he should have, you guys would have never hit it, you know, but that's hindsight.
Anything else? Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gardner?
Yeah, I got the shop there. Right now, it's just a floor drain, but I'm planning on putting a bathroom once I get the property more paid off. You know, I don't want to go into debt right now with the interest rates the way they are, but I just recommend just leave it. It's been there for 50 years. It's not hurting anything. It's PVC. You guys sound like you need the money for other things, so, and I don't really want to spend money on it, so. Talking to my lawyer, he said, I gotta look it up again because I'm not a lawyer. He said, basically it's an implied easement dealing with the previous owner. Obviously, they had a handshake agreement to allow it because people just don't put sewer in at midnight, you know. So it's been there over 20 years. It's useful. It's not hurting your project, and it's new enough. It's not like it's clay, you know. And look, when I look up, I had an easement where the clay one was. So I should be able to go straight across if I wanted to. But the map that they showed, it says it's abandoned, but I don't have any paperwork of that. But,
You say you have an easement for that?
well, where the clay tile was,
Yeah.
I found records of that. So, the property was bought by the Park District in 1988 from Dynamic Homes for 114,000, and then the property next to it was 100,000. So, in 1988 money, that's a lot of money. So this, to me, you have to assume the previous agreements, being it was in agreement before you guys bought the property. The previous owner bought it in the 90s, and then Ted's dad owned it before that. So
What agreement would we be honoring, I guess?
that the line was in use.
Nobody, but did we know the line was in use? I don't think we knew the line
Right,
was in
but
use.
you assume that agreement when you purchase the property, and that's why it's an implied easement. Even though there's no record of it, it was obviously an agreement because nobody protested it or complained about it, you know. So then, under adverse possession, a prescriptive easement may be granted because it's already there, it's functional, and it's not hurting anybody's use of their property.
And I agree, it's not hurting anything right now. I
Right.
think that's the concern, that's why we're here
And it'll be
today.
there for another 100 years. It ain't, I mean, it's PVC, it's not like it's clay or anything. So I say to be neighborly, so everybody gets along, you just leave it, and it doesn't cost money. You already got money locating in it with Roto-Rooter, so now you know where it is exactly. Shouldn't be any problem in the future.
So you're saying, would you be willing to sign an agreement that if there was some damage, that the cost would be covered by
Well,
you?
I think your architect should be the one that's liable for that, not that line that's 6 feet away from the foundation underneath. There's sewer underneath every concrete, gravel road, pavement in the whole town. Why would this be any exception?
So you would be unwilling to sign an agreement to cover costs if something
Well,
happened?
I don't see why there would be. Does anybody else sign an agreement? Like it's underneath the road already. There's underneath the football field where you guys are putting new baseball diamonds that you don't even have money for. So you're going to make him sign an agreement for that too? Because it's already there? It's not hurting anything. It's already functional with a minimal use right now.
Okay, anything from Mr. Gardner?
Mr. Gardner, you have 2 buildings on that lot?
Just one right now,
Just one? Okay.
and it has a floor drain. But both Ted and I's building has well water, so.
Anything Anything else?
Mr. Gartner, the question is, I know you want to put a bathroom in there in the future and stuff like that. Will you need an 8-inch in the future?
No, because when they hit it and when they put the road in, they said that line is big enough for a whole development. But yeah, I understand the new construction got to have 8-inch, I guess. But one guy flushing the toilet ain't gonna have any problems with 4-inch.
In my understanding, 4-inch is fine from the city, but they still will wash their hands clean of it. And
Because it's not recorded or in an easement
in
that
an
they
easement
manage.
right now with the city. Yep. Okay, anything else for Mr. Gardner? Arlen, what about our predicament here?
Well, I
Give us some more insight.
respectfully disagree with the conclusions of your attorney, which I'm sure he made in good faith. It does not rise to the level of adverse possession, because one of the essential missing elements for adverse possession
Got to have 3 things.
is that you're paying taxes on the property you're seeking to adversely possess. You're not paying taxes on this sewer line. Secondly, in order for it to be an implied easement or adverse possession, the party against whom you're seeking that adverse possession or implied easement has to have notice of it. It has to be visible, such as a trail that's cutting across somebody else's land. That's visible. They can see that. If they fail to object to that for the required time, you can then argue you have an implied easement or adverse possession to the
Right, but this
usage of that.
applies the same way.
No one knew that this was there.
But I'm
The Park
using-
District was a good faith purchaser of this property for value
Yep.
without notice. Therefore, the sewer line under their property constitutes a trespass, not an easement,
Right,
not
but
adverse
it's been
possession.
trespassed for longer than 20 years, and it's
That
still in
doesn't
use.
change
So
its
that's why it
nature.
applies under that.
No, that does not change its nature as a trespass. It simply makes it a continuing trespass. In my opinion, the Park District,
For over
if they
50
wanted
years.
to, would be fully within their rights to cut that line and cap it at their property line at this point.
Is that your recommendation?
That would be my recommendation, yes.
Jan?
So that sewer line provides means for my neighbor over there to run his bait shop. His bait shop is, he supplies wholesale bait to the bait shop places around town. So if by cutting that, he won't be able to keep his business going. So you're going to make it hard on him or give him a hard luck because you think you got the right to cap that off without working out some kind of a solution to where he can stay in business. I mean, you want to, according to Cole's deal, he wants to put that sewer line out in the easement of the road. Now, I don't even know if there's room for that. I don't know all the century codes when it comes to sewer lines. I was under the impression that 1 4-inch line per lot. Now he's telling me that it can serve 2 buildings. Well, I don't think any place in town where they have 2 4-inch sewer lines tying 2 houses together, because then you get into that third-party agreement. You know, who's responsible, like you guys want us to sign off on a deal agreement saying that if it breaks, we're going to be responsible for the footing if something goes wrong. Well, how do I know it's getting compacted right? How do I know the concrete's getting poured right? You know, I don't know none of that, so there's no way I'm signing any kind of an agreement or whatever. But, I mean, you're going to fall a hardship on Mr. Emo over there because the sewer line, it was known. The city hit it a couple years ago when they did the street project. So it was known. The city didn't record it, that's not my fault, you know. And I don't know.
Nor is it ours.
Yep. But you guys got a bigger checkbook than I got, you know.
President Meshke and Jan, I have a question. So when we met on site there, I thought the discussion from your end was that you didn't need the sanitary and that you could pump it back down your well.
No, I don't know. I'd have to go to the state. You're gonna give me, how long is that gonna take? Do you want your project to be put on hold or do you want to keep it going forward? You know, that's my question. You know, do I have to find out that, okay, I can go and try to get a stop work order until this gets resolved? For $10,000 or $12,000, you guys can move it. You know, as soon as you tell the city you want to put it in the street easement, they'll be involved. You know, if you want to keep it on your property, they probably won't care. But you don't want to. You want to get it off your property, get it into that easement of the road, and then you want to go north along the water line. Well, I was told in the past that any kind of sewer line needs to be 10 feet away from a water line. Because if the water line breaks and floods the sewer, who's going to be responsible for the damage it causes to the houses that it's tied to? You know, I can see that 10 feet. But, yeah, I don't, you know, it's just that you guys want it moved. I think you guys should just bite the bullet and do it, you know. 12,000 would be nothing for you guys, and I don't know what the bid is. The estimate was,
I think it was 10 to 20,000,
Yeah.
24 feet, $24 per foot.
Yeah, well,
And we're looking anywhere from 450 to 700 feet.
first time we got it was $8 to $10 a foot, and then it went up to 15,000. Now
And I
it's
think
back-
we know that was for the material.
Oh.
I stated that at the meeting that we
I
met.
was going to say, when did $8 come in?
And that was the cost for the material that Bowers was providing, was the material was 8 to 10, thinking that maybe we were putting something in. So I think the liability concerns that we've heard, that's why Attorney Ruff and I have talked. It's like, if they're concerned about the install of the contractor, then they can hire their independent contractor directly and keep the Park District out of it and put their lines in the easement and follow the permitting requirements per the city. We're just asking to protect our investment of $3.1 million. And I've asked the comment when we met out there was if we had a sanitary line going through their private property servicing this new maintenance building, would they require us to move the line or pay for an easement? And the answer, I think, would be yes. So I don't think we're being irrational. We're trying to work with you. We have a hole that's open today. The line is exposed where we can go in and cut it and cap it. And then let Mr. Foshing and Mr. Gardner determine how and when they move forward with replacing their sanitary sewer line. I know it's an inconvenience for today, but if we backfill those footings, which in the next 2 to 3 weeks probably is going to happen, we're going to have to go back and redig that area if we choose to cap it then. So we have additional expense there too. We're willing to give the easement, whether it's, if you need an additional 10 feet, we're willing to give that, whether it's on the west side of that side or the east side, however it deems to be, we're willing to do that at no cost. So if you need a sanitary sewer line, if I was putting my own house in or a garage or whatever, I'd have to pay for it. I wouldn't like it. It's an unfortunate incident that happened to all of us. We're all three caught in a situation that no one wanted to be in. We're trying to be fair. I think the only
There's more than 3 people. I think we're all up here concerned about this too, but.
So that's my concern is something may never happen to that sanitary sewer line, but what happens if it does? And we have the right and the opportunity now to move that line, get it where it needs to go. It really comes down to how you two would choose to pay for it, because we've heard further discussions about Mr. Foshing not needing it and kind of leaving it on Gardner to pay for 100% himself. Well, we don't need to be involved in those discussions. If they have a sanitary line that feeds 2 homes, we just need it off of our property. How it gets replaced, how it gets relocated, who pays for it, that's for those two to determine and to figure out, unfortunately.
I'm just going to say this, is that we are Parks and Rec, we're not the city. The city is in the sanitary business for pipes. I think that's my point. I would like to see these two get together and figure out what they really want to do and get along a little bit maybe, so we know what to do also. I mean, otherwise we're going to end up capping it, and then both of you are out of luck. And I don't like that happening either, but, you know, that's the way I feel.
When you say the city and them talk, is that what you're? Yeah. Because right now the city doesn't want to do anything. And maybe.
The point of it is that it's still, they're still in the city, and I know it's on our property, and I know it was a handshake that was done, but it's still tapped into the city sewer system, correct? Yeah. So, I'm sorry to say that, and I'm saying it out loud. I want them to talk this out, because I don't want that sewer. I don't know who put it in. I don't know if it's done right. I heard it's not coded right. I want it taken care of, but nobody wants to talk to anybody. Well, maybe we need to start sitting down and start discussing these things. Thank you.
My concern is that there wasn't a variance given by the previous owners or by the city commission way back when it wasn't put in. Now, if that variance was given, where do you find that record? They don't record those at the county recorders. You gotta sit back and you gotta go through the city commission minutes. And for what years, you know, I don't know for sure when the sewer line was put in, you know. So how long would that take? Are you gonna give me 100 days or 120 days to research this? To make sure that you're not violating the variance that was granted? You know, and if you cap it off and you violate that variance, then you're gonna have to dig it up and redo it. You're gonna have to straighten it out or remove it, you know? Because I don't believe it was put in and nobody knew about it. Apparently somebody had the okay to tie it into that sewer line that runs on the north side, east and west. Somebody had that okay, you know? And back then, maybe you didn't need to clean out every 100 feet, you know? I don't know when that came
I
about.
think the problem is it wasn't, yes, somebody knew about it, but it wasn't you guys and it wasn't us.
Nope.
That's why we're here right now.
But I bought the property knowing I was hooked up to it.
See, and I scoped mine because I was curious where it ran. I had no idea where it ran. You know, and then when I brung it up, it was, don't worry about it, the building's gonna be farther to the east. You know, well, apparently it got moved west or something, you know, got more excavate. Maybe Bauer should pay for it, you know? I mean, if you do one call and they got it flagged and they're wrong, you know, who's responsible? You know, is one call or is it you? Because you dug in the wrong spot, you know?
But again, it's not recorded, so it couldn't be located because no one knows that it was put in. So that's the issue that we're having.
But they were
Wasn't-
there, the city was there when they hit it, when they put the road in.
And I asked the question like you guys did, when it got hit out in the road in that street improvement, whatever, 2 or 3 years ago, I asked the same question to Justin. Why wasn't it basically expanded to know where this thing went? And I guess, as you know, they didn't take any action from that day.
Right. So now I gotta pay for it.
How long have we known? When did we hit it? How many days ago did we hit it?
A month ago, probably, 3
About
weeks.
30 days, and you found nothing. You looked for variances.
No,
Okay.
first I gotta
I went
find out
to
what year it was put in.
Right. I went to the recorder and there's nothing on that line.
Okay, and then we backfill when? When are we scheduled? to
We're
backfill?
probably in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, you're right there.
Well, two things in the information that we've been presented that stand out is Park District benefits in no way, shape, or form from this. So paying for something we're not benefiting from just doesn't make sense to me. And then we also, moving forward, we set a precedence of potentially having to hear other cases similar to this or unsimilar to this and having to deal with those as well. I don't know. I don't see, if it doesn't benefit us, I don't see how it can be on our dime.
I guess it'll help you sleep better, I guess, if knowing it's not next 6 feet away from your footer, you know, but to me, there's no issue if that sewer line breaks, you know. You can't compare it to a water line break, you know. It's just not gonna erode your footer in a way,
It's 3 feet away from my foundation.
you know. But
I'll just say this, if you guys aren't that worried about it, why don't you guys just sign the waiver and then we can be done with this.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I mean, there's sewer lines all over, you know. I
yeah,
don't-
well, you have problems with your concrete around your apron around the building, you're gonna blame it on the
Yeah,
sewer line.
Because they over excavated, you know.
You know.
15 feet away from the foundation, they got dirt away, you know, that goes.
So if you over excavated and you need additional fill, who's paying for that? You know what I mean? It should have been excavated 3 feet out from the footing, not 6.5, 7 feet or whatever it is. So you got all that additional fill that you need. Who's paying for that? Is that a change order on the contract?
President Meskey, Commissioners, no, it's not. And I can't explain as to what Bowers Excavating chose to do as far as, benchmarking the sidewalls for safety. I mean, that's the only I can think of, but why they went as wide as they did, I guess it's just more of how to operate the equipment, but I guess President Meskey and Commissioner, I guess my concern is this thing's going to get drug out, and we understand it's going to take more than 30 days to figure this out. And I guess if we choose to cap it, and I kind of agree with Attorney Ruff, that if we cap it today, our problems are resolved. They have to go out and determine it. And if they find that we have to come back and put it back together, I guess that's what we have to do. But in all the research that I've dealt with the city and what you see on the abstract, I don't see anything. And I know Mr. Gardner's looked. I don't know if there is a variance or some type of document that says this was allowed.
Like Jan said, he'd have to find the city commission, but we don't even know what year it was.
Yeah, nobody knows.
So that'd be impossible.
So if I find it in a year, you're gonna dig up your apron and repair it?
That's what we got
I
to
mean, there's
determine.
no easement. You guys want to move it, you want to give us the easement, which is fine, but how far easement are you going to get? Is the city going to give you one to put it in the street right away? Or do you put it on the inside of your property line? If you have to be, I don't know how far you'd have to be away from that stormwater drain.
Well, it's my understanding there is a utility easement there to the west,
It runs north and south.
north and south. If it would have to be enlarged, we could do that. We could grant that easement to make it larger. That would not create an issue
Okay,
there.
what about the east and west? Because he wants to run it from where it crosses the road now. He wants to stay, I believe wants to stay in the right of way of the street, and I don't know if that's possible.
And I think President Meskey and Commissioner think that's why they, as the private landlord, should work with the city as far as where that goes. That's where our jurisdiction ends, our property line. We're, as we mentioned before, we're not into the sanitary sewer business. We're saying we'll give you the access through our easement. You work with the city to determine where it needs to go and where it doesn't need to go. And if it has to cross the road and go on the south side and then splice off to the two buildings, that's what they, as landowners, need to do. If I was building a house, I wouldn't be expecting the park district to tell me where to put my sewer line. It'd be going to the city. And I think that's the responsibility that the two private landowners have, to work with the city, to get the permitting, to make sure it's recorded properly, and bring it back. And we'd have to sign off on widening our easement.
And chances are that would be an 8-inch pipe then.
Based on the email that I forwarded to them, it sounds like they're going to allow the 4 because it only serves those two.
Okay.
Question, Mr. Fosh and Mr. Gardner, if in the future, let's say that the park district just went ahead and poured their cement over, backfilled, poured their cement over it, that if that sewer line failed, that you would be then responsible for moving it, repairing it, replacing it, that the park district would have no liability for it at that point.
Yeah, that's
You'd
fine.
have to abandon it, I suppose, then.
You would, if it breaks, you would abandon it, I'm not, yeah,
I just don't foresee that happening.
I don't see it happening either.
Well, I don't think anybody sees that happen when it does happen.
But like where you want to put it, they're going to plant trees right over top of it, and I don't know, trees and sewer get along, so I see.
Who's they? Who's planting trees there?
Well, in the drawing that you had, like right where the entrance is to the building, there's going to be trees planted there, right?
On our side of the property.
Yeah, right over top of the sewer.
Not in the city right of way or whatever.
Right,
It'd be on our property.
yeah, so my sewer pipe's going to be right underneath the trees.
Attorney Ruff, so there's no agreement or easement where this sanitary line is now. If they were to sell this property, whatever we determine here is going to affect, if we just do nothing and say, okay, it can be within 6 feet and move on, well, that might be a barrier to them selling, or could possibly see the issue later. And like you say, if there's some repair needed on there under our concrete, who's gonna foot that bill? It doesn't service us. So Yeah, I agree that the sewer leaking probably wouldn't affect our building, but if roots get in there, or we don't know who constructed it or when, we don't know what kind of condition, what kind of methods were in there, there's entirely possible that they'll need to be repaired. And so do we just Band-Aid it, close it up, cross our fingers, hope for the best? Well, as soon as first sign of trouble under our brand-new parking lot, I mean, we're gonna cap it sooner or later then. So, any thoughts on transfer of property ownership without utilities and proper easement?
I think that would create an issue with a possible potential future purchaser of that property, knowing that that line does not have a proper easement for it to exist.
Yeah, so if there was a failure in that line, we would not even have to grant them permission to enter the property to repair that, because they don't have any right, any access to that.
I believe that's correct.
So,
So it'd have to be rerouted anyway.
so that is why we need to get this in an easement, however we can, whatever makes sense, to allow the repair of this thing if it needs repair. And allow you to sell the property at some point if you need to.
I guess my concern is that if you guys are gonna cap it, will you give me 14-day notice or 10-day notice or something? So I can get with Mr. Emo and make sure that he doesn't have hundreds of dollars of live bait and now he's gonna lose it all, because you guys wanna cap that. So,
You said we're gonna backfill in about 2-3 weeks, you thought?
Yeah, we got to be close, don't you think? I'd say 2 to 3.
the thing that kind of gets me is I tried to tell your employees where it was, and I was told, don't worry about it, the building's not gonna be on it. Because I was concerned about the building being there, because I knew where that sewer line went. But
So who was the employee you told?
I talked to Dustin about it in the past.
You had met, you had called, or we had met down there with Abe Omer with Toman Engineering, and you had pointed out where the Y was, and that's as far as the conversation went, Jan. You were nice enough to show us there's potentially an issue here, and once we started digging, that's when the issue arose.
Mm-hmm. I was informed that here's where it goes, it goes, I thought it went
So-
to the lift station.
So what's interesting about this, and you've had it scoped, you knew it wasn't recorded.
No, I didn't know it wasn't recorded. Why would I go down and check to see if there's an easement? I took it for granted that there was one, I had it
But you
scoped,
had it scoped.
I had it scoped to see where it went. And it went out and it tied in with the one that comes out of Mr. Gartner's building. And that's underneath the street where they're joined. I guess there's a mark now, and I measured it. It's pretty close to what Roto-Rooter did for me, But he couldn't make the corner. He couldn't go any farther when he scoped mine. He scoped it yours way to the north and out to the street, But I thought there was an easement. I thought there was no issue there.
Yeah.
I thought whoever put it in got an easement from Morton County,
I guess the way I look at it right now, I don't know that we have much of a choice but not to cap it unless you guys are willing to sign something that takes some liability away from us if something does happen. That's how I view it.
Well, yeah, like I said, if I can get some kind of a notice.
Well, I think we could, the notice would be if we vote to do that tonight, then it's a matter of when the construction people get where they need to get to. I don't know. Do you work with them every day, Dustin? I don't know.
Yeah, I can ask Capital City what the timeline is going to be.
Okay.
Because you won't need to cap until after the walls are poured and they have to sit. I would suggest, how long they gotta sit. I'd say at least 10 days probably to cure. But if I have a date that I can pass along to Mr. Emo,
I think
and that's the way you guys are looking at doing is capping it.
Well, that's what that's what our legal advice is telling us. That's what I'm hearing from a couple commissioners and,
You know, and then Commissioner Scott, you know, brought up, you're setting a precedent. Well, I don't ever see this happening again, you know, because how many park board shop buildings are you going to make?
yeah.
You know, and then if you buy land, you know, in the future, it's not like.
Well, we have land. We don't, we have land on the outskirts of town that
Yeah.
we could run into the same thing at some point. We got 47 acres north of town that, you know, it looks like nothing's there, but that doesn't mean that there isn't, so.
And President Meshki, Commissioners, we have had run into this problem before on our properties, but we don't build a building over top of it or near it. So if it's in a baseball field like you saw or softball, we do have lines that run through there, and it's a little easier to repair dirt in agri-lime, not a building.
Right.
So looking at the calendar, I mean, I don't see why June 30th wouldn't be a kind of a cutoff date, because I don't see anything really happening in the next 3 weeks where they're going to have to backfill. I would assume it'll be after the 4th of July, so that gives us till June 30th, which is the last Friday of the month, if you want to set a specific date.
Specific date to cap it?
Right, so we wouldn't do anything up until the 30th. That gives them time with Mr. Emil, and if they have time to check for variances or whatever they can find to locate, if they can notify me before June 30th, then we can make that determination, and then after June 30th.
18 days right now.
As long as, could you type it up, send me a letter?
Yeah,
Or
I can put it in an email.
Or an email or something, so I have it.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
What are the board's wishes?
I make the motion to cap that sewer, June 30th, and give them a leeway to look for variance or anything else that would clarify more of it to be there. Or actually, or if it needs to be moved, but as of right now, I want it capped by June 30th.
So when you say leeway, just to make sure, when you talk about your motion, the leeway is up until June 30th?
Up till June 30th.
Okay. So 18 days,
18 days.
17 days. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Mutter. Second by Commissioner Melhoff. Any further discussion?
I just want to say, this is not us being unneighborly, it's just, there's no benefit to us, so I just feel like this.
Put the roads in, you know, you just screwed us over again, you know?
Yeah.
So. It's not my-
Any further discussion?
Just so everybody understands, and I think Mr. Gardner, is that I've had many conversations with a lot of people about this. I've heard from one extreme to the other, but one of the things that I've heard, if it was on their land, it would have been already capped. And so I want to make sure to understand is that I'm not making this decision because I haven't looked into what I've been hearing. I have been investigating into it and discussed it. So me saying I want it capped, a lot of other people would do the same thing on their, if it was in their property. So I'm not doing this to try to hurt anybody or anything else. Thank you.
Any other comments, further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Commissioner Scott?
Aye.
Commissioner Melhoff?
Aye.
Commissioner Mutter?
Aye.
Aye from me as well. Motion carries. Item number 6, Commissioner Staff Reports. Anything else, Cole?
Yep, just President Meskey, you know, we talked about going to the NRPA conference. We had Commissioner Freilich and Commissioner Scott showed interest. As I put in the agenda doc, I just kept the same agenda doc that I was going to have if we were going to move forward, but unfortunately with the cost of the conference and the increase in airfare and things, we just felt it was in the best interest to just not go this year and to budget more for next year to fit it into the budget. I will do it virtually to keep my CEUs, but I just wanted to share that comment that Commissioner Scott and Commissioner Freilich have shared interest, and we will build it into next year's budget. That's all I have.
Okay. Dustin, anything? Dave, you're still back? Nothing?
I have nothing further.
Commissioner Mutter?
I just want to thank Dustin for all he does. I know the spring has been a wild month, so I just want to thank Dustin for getting stuff done between our spring and summer of a week. So thanks, Dustin.
Commissioner Melhoff?
No report.
Commissioner Scott?
No report.
Dustin, I read your thing about the robotic painter. I don't know, there was a story on the news the other night where they said it took 3 people to do. Did you recall where it was from? Did you see
It's the same news story that Cole sent me. Fargo was demonstrating it.
Fargo or West Fargo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we had them out here, demonstrated it. Looks cool. I mean, it's neat. It would free up staff time.
And I
It's
think
not
that's what they said, what took 3 people to do, now 1 person needs to do their.
right. You're pretty much having someone there to refill the paint or change out the battery. But while it's painting, it can, that staff member can be doing other things
Right.
on the property, and it paints a truer line, and it.
What is the cost? Just,
So there's a lease cost, and then there's an outright purchase cost, and of course the lease, both of them have different levels.
Okay.
The lease costs for I believe it's the plus package is about $11,000 per year, and then there's a one-time cost of getting it up and running. It's about a 5-year lease, and then the pro is right around $17,000. So of course one has more bells and whistles than the other one, but it's I think something that we seriously should look into. I've got to do a little.
and
Give
it
them
would
a
do all fields, it would do soccer,
Soccer
football,
field-
baseball.
baseball, and even parking lots, open
Okay.
parking spaces. And once you enter the information, it can do 10 different field configurations. So soccer, football, anything like that, where it'd be a huge advantage.
Did pros have a cost in there, man hours and labor? Maybe that would be something as we look forward.
Yeah, that's
We're always looking for return on an investment.
Yep.
And in that case, obviously,
and that's the
3
information I've
people-
got to get to Turf Tank so that they can kind of give us a potential cost savings for paint and also labor. So that's something we've got in communication back and forth.
they have robotic lawnmowers too.
I know, yeah. We said, put hook a mower behind it, and get everything done all at one time.
All right, thank you. Can we pay our monthly bills?
Make a motion to approve payment over the monthly bills?
Motion by Commissioner Melhoff,
Second?
second by Commissioner Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Future meetings for Park Board Commissioners, there's a few of them here. June 13th is the 2024 golf budget portfolio. That is at the admin offices. It says it differently on there. June 15th, budget portfolio at the admin office, 7:30 a.m. June 20th, recreation budget portfolio at the admin office at 1:30, and the 22nd of June, the admin budget portfolio at the Park District office at 1 p.m. And then on July 10th, I will not be here on July 10th. Commissioner Vice President Melhoff will be here and run the meeting. So, but our regularly scheduled Park Board meeting here at 5:30. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I second.
Motion by Commissioner Scott, second by Commissioner Mutter. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.